Welcome, viewers, to a different kind of transmission. Today, we won't be joined by our usual guide, HK-47, in this exploration of a galaxy far, far away. Instead, we have something unique for you, a tale told by Kreia, the enigmatic and mysterious force who played a pivotal role in the events of Knights of the Old Republic II. This is a story not just of planets and battles, but of philosophy, manipulation, and the complex nature of the Force itself. So, sit back, close your eyes, and let Kreia guide you through her journey. Embrace the narrative and discover the unseen threads that weave together the fate of the galaxy.
Chapter 1. Paragus 2. The Awakening of the Exile. Listen carefully, young one, for the tale I tell is not one of light or darkness, but of the shadows in between. It begins on a cold, desolate place known as Paragus 2, where Mitra Surik the exile first awoke from her long slumber. She was unaware of the path that lay before her, a path I had meticulously woven even before she opened her eyes. From the moment she stumbled out of that kolto tank, I saw in her the raw potential of one who had severed themselves from the Force. A wound in the Force, they called her. A wound that would either heal or fester, and in festering could be turned to my advantage. I positioned myself as a frail old woman, seemingly innocent, a mere guide to the mysteries of her own existence. But every word I spoke was designed to manipulate her choices, to steer her down a path that would test her resolve and challenge her perceptions. I whispered to her of danger, of the Sith who hunted us, knowing it would spur her to action. Her compassion and determination were her strengths, yes, but also her weaknesses. She moved to help others, to find out what had happened to those miners, without realizing she was falling into my carefully laid plans. The chaos of Paragus, the imminent threat of destruction, all served to draw her closer to me. When the facility exploded and we narrowly escaped, it wasn't just a facility that was destroyed. It was the first step in destroying the chains that bound her mind. Chapter 2. Telos, Seeds of Doubt. After Paragus, our path led us to a world scarred by war, much like the exile herself. Telos was a place of restoration, of new beginnings, or so the Republic would have you believe. In truth, it was a place where the rot of the past lay hidden beneath a thin veneer of hope. Mitra sought to help the Ithorians in their restoration project, a noble cause, but one fraught with political intrigue and corruption. I guided her subtly, suggesting that she align with the Ithorians over the corrupt Chirka Corporation, knowing it would appeal to her sense of justice. I watched as she tried to navigate the treacherous waters of Telos politics, all the while planting seeds of doubt in her mind about the Republic, about her former allies, about herself. She did not yet see the larger picture, the deeper game at play, but that was by design. Her decisions to aid the helpless Ithorians and oppose the greed of Zerka only bound her more tightly to me. She did not realize that every act of mercy, every decision to help, was also a decision to let me in. And then there was Atris, the Jedi who had betrayed her, hidden away in her ivory tower, surrounded by relics of the past. I knew that seeing Atris would stir old emotions in the exile, feelings of anger and betrayal, feelings that I could use. I whispered to her of Atris's treachery, of the Council's betrayal, feeding the flames of her resentment, knowing it would lead her to question not only Atris, but all of the Jedi Order. Chapter 3. Nar Shadar, the Smuggler's Moon. Our journey then took us to Nar Shadar, the moon of smugglers, a place where the light struggled to pierce the ever-present darkness. It is here that I saw the true test for Mitra Surik, a world filled with the lost and the desperate, a place where the weak were preyed upon by the strong, and where the strong were merely pawns of the powerful. Here, I could observe her without interference, without the need for subtlety. I watched as she moved among the refugees, the bounty hunters, and the mercenaries, her compassion driving her to help those who could not help themselves. But every act of kindness, every attempt to save those lost souls, only served to entangle her further in the web of my design. For each life she saved, a debt was owed, a lesson learned, a bond formed that I could later exploit. The exchange, a syndicate of organized crime, sought to capture her, to turn her into a commodity. I let them come, knowing that their pursuit would force her to confront the darkness within herself, to question why she fought, and for whom. I let her see the worst of Nar Shadar, the suffering and the despair, knowing it would only drive her closer to me. The more she saw of the galaxy's darkness, the more she would come to rely on my guidance. And there, in the shadows of the smuggler's moon, I began to whisper to her of the Force, of how it binds us all, of how it can be a source of both strength and suffering. I spoke of the echoes in the Force, of how they were tied to great suffering and death, and how those echoes could be wielded as weapons. I planted the idea in her mind that perhaps the Jedi's teachings were flawed, that perhaps the Force was not the benevolent power they believed it to be. Chapter 4. Dexon and Andon, a world divided. Next we travelled to Dexon, the moon of Andon, a world steeped in blood and war. The dense jungles were filled with creatures of the dark side, twisted by the long-ago battles fought there. It was a place of great power, a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thin, a perfect place to test the exile's resolve. I watched as she led our party through the jungle, facing beasts and worse. She did not flinch from the dangers, did not hesitate to protect those under her command. But the real test came on Andon, a world divided by civil war. Here she was forced to choose between Queen Talia and General Vaklu, each representing a different vision for the future of Andon. I pushed her towards the Queen, knowing that her choice would have consequences, that it would force her to confront the reality of her actions. By siding with Talia, she became a part of the conflict, a part of the bloodshed that followed. She saw firsthand the cost of war, the cost of her decisions, and the power of the dark side that lay just beneath the surface. It was here that I began to teach her the true nature of the Force, of how it could be used to manipulate and control, to bend others to her will. I showed her how to use her power to influence the minds of others, to bend them to her will, to make them see the world as she wanted them to see it. And she listened, for she saw the truth in my words. Chapter 5. Corban, the Tombs of the Dark Side. Our journey then took us to Corban, the ancient home of the Sith. It was here, among the tombs of the long-dead Sith Lords, that I saw the greatest test for Mitra Surik. Corban was a world steeped in the dark side, a world where the very air was thick with malice and hate. It was a place where the weak were consumed, where only the strong could survive. I watched as she descended into the tombs, facing the spirits of the dead, the echoes of the past. I watched as she faced her own fears, her own doubts, as the dark side whispered to her, tempting her with promises of power and knowledge. But she did not falter, did not give in to the temptations of the dark side. She faced the darkness within herself, and she overcame it. But even in her victory, I saw an opportunity. I spoke to her of the Sith, of their philosophy, of their belief in the power of the dark side. I spoke to her of the strength that could be gained from embracing the darkness, from accepting the pain and the suffering, from using it to fuel her power. And I saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes, a moment of hesitation. I knew then that I was close, that she was beginning to see the truth in my words. Chapter 6. Dantoine, the Echoes of the Past. Finally, our journey took us to Dantoine, the site of the old Jedi enclave, a place of great importance to Meetra Surik. It was here that she had once trained as a Jedi, where she had once believed in the teachings of the Jedi Order. But the enclave was now in ruins, a testament to the failure of the Jedi, to their inability to see the darkness that lay ahead. I watched as she walked among the ruins, as she remembered the past, as she faced the ghosts of her former life. I spoke to her of the Jedi, of their failures, of their blindness to the true nature of the Force. I spoke to her of how they had betrayed her, of how they had cast her out, of how they had failed to protect the galaxy from the darkness that was coming. And I saw in her eyes a growing realization, a growing understanding of the truth of my words. She began to see the Jedi for what they truly were, not as protectors, but as blind fools, unable to see the true nature of the Force. She began to question their teachings, to question their beliefs, to see the flaws in their philosophy. She began to see once the Jedi fell. Chapter 7. The Final Lesson. Malachor 5. And so our journey came to an end at Malachor, a world of death and destruction, a world where the Force itself had been twisted and broken. It was here that I intended to give Meetra Surik her final lesson, to show her the true nature of the Force, to show her the power that lay within her. I led her to the Trayus Academy, the heart of the dark side on Malachor, a place of great power and great danger. I spoke to her of the echoes in the Force, of how they were tied to great suffering and death, of how they could be used as weapons to bend others to her will. I spoke to her of the power that could be gained from embracing the darkness, from accepting the pain and the suffering, from using it to fuel her power. But the Jedi exile did not give in. She did not accept my teachings, did not embrace the darkness. She chose instead to face the darkness within herself, to confront her own fears and doubts, to overcome them. She chose to walk her own path, a path of balance, a path of understanding. And in that moment, I saw the truth. I saw that she was stronger than I had ever realized, stronger than I could ever be. I saw that she had found a way to use the Force without being consumed by it, to walk in the light without being blinded by it, to embrace the darkness without being lost to it, and it was here amongst the lifeless husk of Malachor that I fell, and my story ended.
And there you have it. A journey through the shadows of the Force, as seen through the eyes of Kreia. Her wisdom, her manipulations, her unique perspective on the Jedi, the Sith, and the nature of the Force itself have painted a picture that few would dare to imagine. We hope you found this tale as enlightening as it was mysterious. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We may be returning to our usual guide soon, but for now, may the Force guide you, wherever you choose to tread.